The selected project file opens in the drawing window in the Entry Structural Plan view. Next, we are going to create a structural column type. In this section, you will create a concrete rectangular column type to add to the project view. To do so, choose the column tool from Structure panel of Structure tab. You can see here the Modify Place Structural Column contextual tab is displayed. After that, go to the Properties panel and select the specified option from the Type Selector drop-down list. Select 12 inches by 18 inches concrete rectangular column size. Then choose the Edit Type button. You can see here the Type Properties dialog box is displayed. In this dialog box, choose the Duplicate button. See, the Name dialog box is displayed here. In this name dialog box, enter the value as 12 inches by 24 inches and then choose OK button. The name dialog box is closed. After that, in the Type Properties dialog box, click the value corresponding to the H parameter. The existing value 1 feet 6 inches is highlighted. Then replace the existing value with 2 feet 0 inches and then choose the OK button. The Type Properties dialog box closes and the preview of the new column type attached with the cursor is displayed in the drawing area. The next section is adding structural columns. In this section, we are going to add structural columns to the model. To do so, right-click in the drawing area and choose Zoom in Recent option from the shortcut menu. You can see here the cursor gets modified into zoom icon. After that, move the cursor and place it between the grid lines marked 1 and 8. Click at an appropriate location. You can see here the rectangular selection window appears. Then move the cursor downward to the right and click between the grid lines marked 5.1 and C2. On doing so, the project view zooms in so that the columns can easily be added at the desired location. Then select the Rotate After Placement checkbox in the options bar and choose the Hide option from the first drop-down list next to it. Then ensure that the Rule Bounding checkbox is selected in the options bar. After that, place the cursor at the intersection of grid 1 and grid 8. The grid 1 and grid 8 are highlighted. Then click when both grids are still highlighted. Preview of the column with its center aligned to the intersection of grid 1 and grid 8 is displayed. Then move the cursor upward to the right. The rotation alignment line appears with a temporary angular dimension. After that, type 90. You can see here an edit box with typed value is displayed near the temporary dimension. Then press enter. A column is inserted at the intersection of grid 1 and grid 8. Next, repeat the steps to insert other columns of the same type and alignment at the different grid intersections. Do not exit the column tool even though you have inserted all columns at the different grid intersections. After inserting all the columns, choose the Add Grids tool from multiple panel of the Modify Place Structural Column contextual tab. You can see here the Modify Place Structural Column and Grid Intersection contextual tab is displayed. After that, place the cursor on grid E and click where the grid is highlighted. The grid B is selected. Then press and hold the Control key and click on grid 4, grid 5 and grid G1 to select them. After that, place the cursor on grid B and click when the grid is highlighted. The grid B is selected. Next, press and hold the Control key and click on the grid 4, grid 5 and grid G1 to select them. You can see here the columns are inserted at the grid intersections of the selected grid. Now, choose the Finish button from the multiple panel of the Modify Place Structural Column and Grid Intersection tab. After choosing the Finish button, see here the Modify Place Structural Column contextual tab is displayed. Then choose the Modify button from Select panel in the Modify Place Structural Column contextual tab. Now we are going to see the next section, that is modifying the height of columns. In this section, to adjust the thickness of slab in the structural model, you will modify the height of inserted columns by adjusting their top offset distances. To do so, place the cursor between grid A and grid 1. Next, press and hold the left mouse button and then drag the cursor downward toward the right along the selection window until it is placed at the location. After that, release the mouse button and click. You can see here all the columns inside the selection window are selected and the Modify Structural Columns contextual tab is displayed. Then, in the Properties palette of the selected column, click in the value field corresponding to the top offset instance parameter. Clear the existing values and then enter -1 field. After that, choose the Apply button in the Properties palette and then Modify button in the Select panel of the Modify Structural Column tab. Now, select all the columns using the selection window as done before. In the Properties palette of the selected column, select Entry option for the base level and second floor for the top level. Then choose Apply button. The height of the columns is set between the entry and second floor levels. Then, the next section is Adding Structural Walls. In this section, you create a structural wall type and add it to the project view. To add structural walls, choose the Wall Structural tool from Wall drop-down in the Structure panel of Structure tab. You can see here the Modify Place Structural Wall contextual tab is displayed. In the Properties palette, select the desired option from the Type Selector drop-down list. Here, I am going to select Exterior 8 inches concrete option from the Type Selector drop-down list. Now, choose the Edit Type button. You can see here the Type Properties dialog box is displayed. In this Type Properties dialog box, choose the Duplicate button. After choosing the Duplicate button, you can see here Name dialog box is displayed. In the Name Edit box of Name dialog box, type Core Sharp 12 inches concrete and choose OK button. The name dialog box is closed. After that, in the Type Properties dialog box, choose the Edit button displayed in the value column of the structure parameter. See, here the Edit Assembly dialog box is displayed. In the Layers area of the Edit Assembly dialog box, click in the Edit box in the Thickness column corresponding to the Structure 1 function and enter 12 inches. Next, press Enter to replace the existing value. Then, choose the OK button. See here, the Edit Assembly dialog box closes and the Type Properties dialog box is displayed. In the Type Properties dialog box, select Shaft Cover options from the drop-down list corresponding to the function parameter from the construction area and then choose OK button. The Type Properties dialog box is closed. Next, in the options bar, select the height option from the first drop-down list. You can see here the warning message box appears at the bottom of the screen. Close the message box. After that, select the second floor option from the second drop-down list in the options bar and then clear the Change checkbox. Then zoom in the drawing and move the cursor toward the column at the intersection of grid 4 and grid B. Then place the cursor of the right face of the column. Click when the right face is highlighted and the midpoint snap is displayed. After that, move the cursor horizontally toward the right and place it at the midpoint of the left face of the column located at the intersection of grid 5 and grid B. Click when the midpoint and horizontal snap appears. Then move the cursor and place it at the lower face of the column located at the intersection of grid 5 and grid B. Click when the midpoint snap appears. After that, move the cursor vertically down and place it at the upper face of the column and the intersection of grid 5 and grid D. Click when the midpoint and vertical snap appears. Then place the cursor at the lower face of the column at the intersection of grid 5 and grid D. Click when the lower face is highlighted and the midpoint snap appears. After that, move the cursor vertically downward and place it at the upper face of the column located at the intersection of the grid 5 and grid E. Click when the midpoint and vertical snap appears at the intersection point. Then repeat the method of adding structural wall as done before. Then choose the Modify button from Select panel of Modify Place Structural Wall. After that, select the wall placed on grid B and then right-click. A shortcut menu is displayed. Then choose the Visible in View from the Select All Instances drop-down list. See, here all walls in the project wing will be highlighted. Then, in the Properties tab, enter -2 feet in the top offset edit box. You can see here the selected project file opens in the drawing window in the Entry Structural Plan view. Now, the next section is creating a structural column type. In this section, you will create a concrete rectangular column type and add it to the structural model. Before creating a structural column type, ensure that the Entry Structural Plan view is open as the current view. Then choose the column tool from the Structure panel of Structure tab. You can see here the Modify Place Structural Column Contextual tab is displayed. Next, choose the Load Family tool from the Mode panel of Modify Place Structural Column Contextual tab. You can see here the Load Family dialog box is displayed. In this dialog box, click on the Up One Lever button next to the Looking drop-down list until the English Imperial folder is displayed. Then select the English Imperial folder and click on it. Then choose the Structural Column folder and click on it. Then choose Concrete folder. Then select the Concrete Square column and choose the Open button from Load Family dialog box. After that, in the Properties palette, select Concrete Square column 24 by 24 from the Type Selector drop-down list. Now we are going to see the next section, that is adding structural columns. In this section, you will add new and existing structural column types to the project. To do so, select the height option from the first drop-down list on the left in the options bar and ensure that the second floor option is selected in the other drop-down list. Then choose Add Grids tool from multiple panel of Modify Place Structural Column Contextual tab. You can see here the Modify Place Structural Column and Grid Intersection Contextual tab is displayed. Then place the cursor over Grid C and click when it is highlighted. Grid C is selected. Next, press and hold the Control key and click over the Grid A, Grid B, Grid 8 and Grid 9. The columns are inserted at the intersections of the selected grids. Then choose the Finish button from multiple panels. You can see here the Modify Place Structural Column Contextual tab is displayed. Then, in the Properties palette, select W Shifts column W10 by 33 option from the Type Selector drop-down list. Then choose Add Grids tool from multiple panel of Modify Place Structural Column Contextual tab. See, here the Modify Place Structural Column Add Grid Intersection Contextual tab is displayed again. Then move the cursor and place it on the circular grid A apostrophe and click when it is highlighted. Grid A apostrophe is selected. After that, press and hold the Control key and click over the circular grid B apostrophe, grid 1, grid 2, grid 3, grid 4, grid 5, and grid 6 to select them. You can see here the columns are inserted at the intersections of the selected grids. Then choose the Finish button from multiple panel. Again, the Modify Place Structural Column Contextual tab is displayed. Then choose the Modify button from Select panel. You can notice here that the column is added at the intersection of all grid lines. Then select the column at the intersection of all grids and delete it to remove from the model. Now, the next section is modifying the height of columns. In this section, you will modify the height of the inserted square concrete columns by adjusting their base level parameter. To do so, select all the concrete square columns 24 by 24 type concrete columns from the drawing. On selecting all the square concrete columns, you can see here the Modify Structural Columns Contextual tab is displayed. Then, in the Properties palette of the selected column, click in the value field corresponding to the base level instance parameter and select the TOS level from the drop-down list displayed. Then choose the Apply button and after that, choose the Modify button from Select tab of Modify Structural Column Contextual tab. In this section, you will load the isolated foundation families to the current project. To do so, ensure that the Entry Structural Plan view is the current view in the drawing area. Then choose the Isolated tool from Foundation panel of Structure tab. You can see here the Modify Place Isolated Foundations Contextual tab is displayed. In this tab, choose the Load Family from Mode panel. After choosing the Load Family tool, you can see here the Load Family dialog box is displayed. In this dialog box, select the Structural Foundation folder. After that, press and hold the Control key and then click on the file cap 2π and file cap 4π files displayed in the Structural Foundations folder. The files are highlighted, indicating they have been selected. Then choose the Open button. The window closes and the highlighted family files are loaded in the project. The next section is creating new types for the isolated foundation. In this section, you will create two new types of the isolated foundation. For that, in the Properties panel, ensure that the pipe gap 2 pipe 31 inches by 71 inches by 35 inches option is selected from the Type Selector drop-down list. Then choose the Edit Type button from the Properties panel. The Type Properties dialog box is displayed. After that, choose the Duplicate button in the Type Properties dialog box and the Name dialog box is displayed. In this Name dialog box, enter the name as 31 inches by 61 inches by 35 inches in the Name Edit box. Then choose the OK button. Name dialog box is closed and the Type Properties dialog box is displayed. In the Type Properties dialog box, select the desired option if not selected by default from the drop-down list in the value field of the pile type structural foundations parameter. I'm going to select the pile steel pipe 16 inches diameter. Then click in the value field of the weight parameter and replace the existing value with 5 feet 1 inches and press enter. Then click in the value field of the clearance parameter and place the existing value 1 feet and press enter. Next, choose OK button. You can see here the family is created. After that, choose the Edit Type button from the Properties palette. The Type Properties dialog box is displayed. Then select the Bicap 4π option from the Family drop-down list and then select the option from the Type drop-down list if not selected by default as 79 inches by 79 inches by 35 inches. You can see here, this option is already selected by default. After that, choose the Duplicate button. The Name dialog box is displayed. In this Name dialog box, enter the name as 72 inches by 72 inches by 35 inches. Next, choose OK button. The Name dialog box is closed and the Type Properties dialog box is displayed. In the Type Properties dialog box, select the steel pipe 16 inches diameter option from the drop-down list in the value field of the pipe type structural foundations parameter. Then click in the value field corresponding to the width and length parameters and enter 6 feet in each of them. After that, click in the value corresponding to the clearance parameter and enter 1 feet 3 inches to replace the existing value. Then choose OK button. The Type Properties dialog box is closed. Now, we are going to see the next section, that is adding isolated foundation. In this section, you will add the isolated foundation types that you have already created in the project before. To do so, select the option 72 inches by 72 inches by 35 inches pile cap 4 pile from the Type Selector drop-down list. After that, choose the Add Columns tool from the Multiple panel of Modify Place Isolated Foundation Contextual tab. Then move the cursor and place it over the column located at the intersection of grid C and grid 2. Click when the column is highlighted. A foundation with 4 piles and a pile cap is added at the center of the highlighted column. Then place and hold the Control key and repeat steps to add the foundations to all the internal columns. Release the Control key and choose the Finish button from the Multiple panel of Modify and Structural Column Contextual tab. The 4-pile foundation is added to the selected columns. Next, press this key. After that, choose the Isolated tool from the Foundation panel of Structure tab to add foundations to the remaining column. Select the option Pile Cap tool by 31 inches by 61 inches by 35 inches from the Type Selector drop-down list. After that, choose the Add Columns tool from the Multiple panel of Modify Place Isolated Foundation Contextual tab. Next, move the cursor and place it over the column located at the intersection of grid 1 and grid A. The column at the intersection of the grid is highlighted. Then click on the highlighted column. The foundation is added to the highlighted column. After that, press and hold the Control key and repeat steps to add the foundation type to all the columns that do not have the foundation attached to them. Then release the Control key and choose the Finish button from the multiple panel of the Modify Place Isolated Foundation and Structure Columns contextual tab. Then press Escape. Next, choose the Isolated tool from the Foundation panel of the Structure tab again. You can see here the Modify Place Isolated Foundation contextual tab is displayed. In the Properties tab, ensure that the pie cap 2 pi 31 inches by 61 inches by 35 inches option is selected in the Type Selector drop-down list. Now, place the cursor over the column at the intersection of grid C1 and 3.1. Both the grids at the intersection get highlighted. Next, click on the highlighted grids. The selected foundation type is added to the column placed at the intersection of grid C1 and grid 3.1. Then, repeat steps to add the foundation types to the column at the intersection of grid G2 and grid 3.1. After adding the foundation, choose the Modify button from the Select panel of Modify Place Isolated Foundation Contextual tab to exit the Isolated tool. Okay, now the next section is adding the foundation wall. In this section, you will add the foundation wall to the structural walls in the project. To do so, choose the Wall tool from the Foundation panel of the Structure tab. You can see here the Modify Place Wall Foundation Contextual tab is displayed. After that, in the Properties tab, ensure that the wall foundation bearing footing 36-inch by 12-inch is selected in the Type Selector drop-down list. Then click on the structural wall located at grid B. The foundation wall of the selected type is added throughout the length of the wall. Now click on the remaining structural walls in the model. The foundation walls are added to the all structural walls in the project. Then choose the Modify button from Select panel of the Modify Place Wall Foundation contextual tab. Then we are going to add beams to the second floor structural plan view of the project in this section. To do so, double-click on the structural floor node under the structural plans area of project browser. You can see here the second floor structural plan view becomes the current view. Now choose Beam tool from Structure panel of Structure tab. Next, in the Properties tab, select the concrete rectangular beam 12 inches by 24 inches option from the Type Selector drop-down list. Then, in the Options bar, ensure that the Chain checkbox is clear. Now, move the cursor and place it at the intersection of grid 1 and grid A. Click at the intersection where the midpoint snap is displayed. After that, move the cursor to the right and place at the center of the column. Then click at the intersection where the midpoint and the horizontal snap is displayed for the column placed at the intersection of grid A and grid 2. Notice that the beam is added between the intersections of grids. Next, click when the midpoint snap is displayed for the column placed at the intersection of grid 2 and grid A. Next, click when the midpoint snap is displayed for the column placed at the intersection of grid 2 and grid A. Then, move the cursor horizontally right and place it at the center point of the column placed at the intersection point of grid A and grid 3. Click at the intersection where the midpoint and horizontal snap is displayed. After that, repeat the procedure to add the remaining weights to the structural plan view. Then choose the Modify button from Select panel of Modify Place View contextual tab. In the next section, we are going to select all the instances of the beam in the project view and modify their instance properties. For that, click on the beam placed at grid A between grid 1 and grid 2. Then right-click. A shortcut menu is displayed. After that, choose the Visible in View option under the Select All Instances drop-down from the shortcut menu. All beams in your project view are selected. Now press Shift key and then select the beam created on grid 4, 5, B and G1. After that, press Shift key and then select beams created on grid B, G1, 4 and 5. These beams are removed from the selection. Then, in the Properties palette, specify the instance parameter as -1 feet in the start level offset and -1 feet in the end level offset. Next, choose the Apply in the Properties palette and press Escape. Then the next section is adding the structural flow. In this section, you will add a structural flow to the project in the second floor structural plan view. To do so, ensure that the second floor subnode under the structural plan suite node is highlighted in the project browser. Then invoke the floor structural tool under the floor drop-down from the structure panel of structure tab. You can see here the Modify Create Floor Boundary contextual tab is displayed. Then, in the Properties palette, select Generic 12 inches option from the Type Selector drop-down list. After that, in the Modify Create Floor Boundary contextual tab, ensure that the boundary line option is chosen in the drop-down. Then, choose the Line tool from the list box displayed right next to the boundary line tool. In the options bar, ensure that the Change checkbox is selected and then in the Offset Edit box, replace the default value as 1 feet. Then move the cursor and place it at the intersection of grid A and grid 1 and click when the endpoint snap is displayed. Then move the cursor to a right and place it at the intersection of grid A and grid 3 and click when the endpoint and horizontal snap is displayed. Next, click on the other grid intersections such as grid C1 and grid 3, grid C1 and grid 3.1, grid D and grid 3.1, grid D and grid 4. Next, click on the other grid intersections to create floor. After creating a boundary, choose the Modify tool from the Select panel to exit the current tool. Then choose the Trim Extend to Corner tool from the Modify panel and then select the recently created line and the horizontal line starting from the grid 1. Next, choose the Finish Edit Mode button from the Mode panel of the Modify Create Floor Boundary contextual tab and then choose the Modify button from Select panel of the Modify Floor contextual tab to complete the floor creation. In the last section, we are going to save the project using Save As tool. To do so, go to the File and click on it. Then select the project option from Save As menu bar. You can see here the selected project file opens in the drawing window in the Entry Structural Plan view. Then the next section is adding isolated footing foundations. In this section, you will add the isolated footing foundations to columns. To do so, go to the Structure tab and choose Isolated tool from Foundation panel. You can see here the Modify Place Isolated Foundation contextual tab is displayed. Next, in the Properties palette, select Footing Rectangular 72 inches by 48 inches by 18 inches from Type Selector drop-down list if it is not selected by default. After that, choose the Add Grids tool from Multiple panel. See here, the Modify Place Isolated Foundation and Grid Intersection contextual tab is displayed. Next, move the cursor and place it on grid C and click when the grid is highlighted. Then press and hold the Control key and select the grids marked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A dash, B dash, A, and B. Release the Control key and choose the Finish button from Multiple panel. You can see here the warning messages displayed on the screen. Just ignore and close this warning message. Then press Escape to finish insertion of the isolated foundations and then exit from the isolated tool. To do so, move the cursor and place it toward the isolated foundation added at the intersection of the radial grids and click when the foundation is highlighted. Then press Delete. The isolated foundation is deleted from the project. Then we are going to see the next section, that is adding a foundation slab. In this section, you will add a foundation slab in the foundation level structural plan. To do so, double-click on the foundation level node in the structural plans head of Project Browser, and then invoke the Foundation Slab tool from the Foundation panel. You can see here the Modify Create Floor Boundary contextual tab is displayed. Next, in the Properties palette, select the Foundation Slab 6 inches Foundation Slab option from the drop-down list. Next, in the Properties palette, select the Foundation Slab 6 inches Foundation Slab option from the Type Selector drop-down list if it is not selected by default. Then, in the Draw panel of the Modify Create Floor Boundary Contextual tab, ensure that the Boundary Line tool is chosen and the Rectangular tool from the list box displayed next to it, and then invoke the Rectangular tool from the list box displayed next to it. After that, in the Options bar, click in the Offset Edit box and enter the value 1 feet to replace the existing value in the edit box. Then press Enter. Next, move the cursor and place it at the intersection of grid C and grid 9 and click when the midpoint snap is displayed at the grid intersection. Then move down the cursor toward right and place it at the intersection of grid C and grid 7. Then click when the endpoint snap is displayed at the intersection. Now click on the other two grid intersections A7 and A9. Then choose the Finish Edit Mode button from the Mode panel. Then choose the Modify button from the Select panel to exit the Foundation Slab tool. Then the next section is adding beams. In this section, you will add concrete and flange beam to the project view. To do so, double-click on the second floor node of the structural plans head in the project browser. You can see here the second floor plan view is displayed on the screen. Then invoke the beam tool from the structure panel. You can see here the Modify Place Beam Contextual tab is displayed. Then, in the Properties palette, select the concrete rectangular beam 12 inches by 24 inches from the Type Selector drop-down list. After that, choose On Grids tool from the Multiple panel. Also ensure that the Tag-on Placement tool is selected in the Tag panel. Then select Grid C by clicking on it. You can see here the beam of the selected type are added between the midpoint. Then press and hold the Control key and select grids A, B, 7, 8, and 9. You can see here the beams are added between the intersections. After that, choose the Finish button from the Multiple panel. Then, in the Properties palette, select the option W40 by 30 from the Type Selector drop-down list. Then choose On Grids tool from Multiple panel. After that, select Grid 6. A beam of the selected type is added between the intersection of grid 6 with the other grids. Then press and hold the Control key and select grids 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, A- and B-. The flange beams are added between grids. Then choose the Finish button from the Multiple panel and press Escape to exit the beam tool. Then we are going to see the next section, that is adding the structural floors. In this section, you will add structural floors to the project view. To do so, invoke the structural floor tool from the structure panel. You can see here the Modify Create Floor Boundary Contextual tab is displayed. After that, in the Properties palette, click in the value field corresponding to the height offset from level parameter and enter 19 by 4 inches and press Enter. Then choose the Edit Type button. You can see here the Type Properties dialog box is displayed. In the Type Properties dialog box, select NW Concrete on Metal Deck option from Type drop-down list. After that, in the Draw panel of the Modify Create Floor Boundary Contextual tab, choose the Boundary Line tool if not selected. Then invoke the Rectangle tool from the list box displayed next to Boundary Line tool. After that, in the options bar, replace the value in the offset edit box with 1 feet and press enter. After that, move the cursor and place it at the intersection of grid 9 and grid C. Click when the endpoint snap is displayed. Then move the cursor downward toward the right and place it at the intersection of grid A and grid 8. Click when the endpoint snap appears at the intersection. After that, choose Finish Edit Mode button from Mode panel. The floor boundary is created and is highlighted in blue color. Then press Escape to exit the Structural Floor tool. Then again, invoke the Structural Floor tool from Structure panel. You can see here the Modify Create Floor Boundary Contextual tab is displayed. In the Draw panel of the Modify Create Floor Boundary Contextual tab, choose the Boundary Line tool if it is not selected by default. After that, choose the Peak Support tool from the list box displayed next to the Boundary Line tool chosen. After that, place the cursor on the grid B. After that, place the cursor on the beam at grid 7 and then place the cursor on the beam at grid 7 between grids A and B. You can see here the beam gets highlighted. Click on the highlighted beam to add the first edge of the structural floor. Next, choose the Pick Lines tools from the Draw panel. Then, move the cursor and place it over the beam located at grid B. Then, move the cursor and place it over the beam located at grid B dash between grids 6 and 7. The beam gets highlighted. Click on the highlighted beam. Next, one by one, click on all the outer flange beams placed on grids B-1 and A- to define the floor boundary. After you have clicked on all the outer flange beams, the floor boundary is created. Then choose the Finish Edit Mode button from the Modify panel. You can see here the floor is created. After that, in the Properties palette, select the option Floor 1.5 inches Metal Roof Deck. Then press Escape to exit the Structural Floor tool. Then, the last section of this tutorial is saving the project. In this section, you will save the project by using the Save As tool.